Alrighty guys, welcome back to another set champs here. We are coming in from the Good Games Greensborough, which happened just this weekend gone, with a huge 42 players turning out, so going to be 6 rounds of Swiss plus a top cut, so plenty of games to cover. I hope you're all getting in some good last minute practice before the Melbourne DLC coming up this weekend. And then we'll get back into some more set champs the weekend after. So if you've got any on that you want me to come visit, I know there's a few happening, so still deciding which ones to hopefully come and stream at. So if you have any ideas, leave it in the comments or let me know. So we've got Patrick here on the right playing against Chris. Now I believe Patrick will be playing that Amber Emerald discard deck. Definitely seen that one drop off a little bit in recent times. Then we see Chris here on the left playing the Ruby Sapphire. So he will be going first. Always an advantage. You find sometimes these Ruby Sapphire decks can struggle a bit going against some more aggressive decks. And we do see Patrick has the Cursed Merfolk. So going to help put the pressure on early. Sorry about the glare here, guys. I will be trying to invest in some sort of shade going forward. That is a Cursed Merfolk there on the board for Patrick. Chris getting that turn 2 ramp, very important in this deck to help get to some of those higher cost cards. Now Patrick unfortunately not getting the Cursed Merfolk, or not getting the 1 cost Diablo on turn 1, being able to shift into the 3 cost. That's one of the problems with these decks here, is you don't have a good turn 2 option a lot of the time. We did see the Amber Emerald deck was playing the Sir Hiss for a little while. And another downside is not a whole lot of board presence in the decks here. The only real option you have for sort of increasing your strength is something like a Hidden Cove to help deal with some of these higher willpower locations and characters. So Chris identifying that and going in aggressive as well. So we do see the Diablo come down. Unfortunately, won't be able to exert until next turn, so not going to be drawing any cards for Patrick at this stage, but will start to deter things like a Falavisham coming down to draw some more cards. But if you can get it down this turn, we'll get around that. Or maybe even something like a small Sisu, the Human Traveler, or Daring Visitor to banish this Diablo. Just decides to go for the Falavisham instead, so drawing these cards before the Diablo is able to exert, so not going to be able to get that draw. But unfortunately having to banish that ice block means that Chris will have to find something like a Brawl to remove this Diablo next turn. We see Patrick does draw into that morph there, so a nice 2-drop option, but has already passed that time, I think, for that. Looks like he actually might be playing the Steel version. Now I like this here from Patrick, sort of overloading the board to remove some of the target options for Chris. So having the Diablo down and the Ursula here means that Brawl will only be able to target one of them, and it's sort of up to Chris to decide which one he thinks might be the most valuable. And now we see the true power of Falavisham, being able to quest to get banish items and draw cards, and also sing this really powerful How Far I'll Go. I think that decision for Chris there was between a Brawl and a Dime. Probably going to need to have taken the Brawl if that's the case. Looks like he did. And we do also see the Sisu in hand, so unfortunately he had to banish that ice block. Won't be able to use that to get rid of the Diablo or Ursula. So I believe the Merfolk does not actually discard a card here, because it's only when challenged. So it will be interesting to see if they rectify this, because that vision of the future should be in hand for Chris. The Merfolk is only when challenged. And I imagine we're going to see that Brawl come down. Going to be interesting to see what Chris decides to target though. Is going to be that Diablo So Ursula here being able to sing something like a Sudden Chill will remove Chris's hand. Another top deck of the morph for Patrick here. Maybe even something like a Hypnotize to help remove some of these cards for Chris. This matchup can get a bit dicey for the Emerald Steel players, but I think as long as you're able to remove that hand before they start getting up to 7, 8, 9 ink, it's looking pretty good for you. So a Sudden Chill here I think would put Patrick in a very good spot to win the game, but it doesn't look like he has it. So Chris making the right choice and taking out that Diablo last turn. Looks like he might have to sing the Storm Rage on here just to draw some cards. So going to be able to draw 2 cards here for Patrick. Probably more important than the damage, as that Sisu's not putting on too much pressure except maybe for a shift, but just getting rid of the Ursula is probably not that impactful. Now it'll be interesting to see here something like that Diablo and Merfolk come down possibly, or maybe even the Prince John preparing for that Hypnotize for next turn. Yeah, we see the Diablo and Merfolk come down. So we see the power of this McDuck Manor against this matchup, sort of having it down early and Patrick not having a lot of strength on the board, being able to gain already 6 lore. So it could be an interesting tech card in this matchup, especially since we see Zan from the North American Continentals was not playing the Beasts or the Ana, so losing some of that power to increase your strength of characters and have some high strength characters as well. Interesting to see what Chris has here for cost 5. I saw that Maui Half Shark in hand. Not going to be able to play it just yet. Does have the Porpsicle, so can start drawing some more cards. Definitely like to see this coming in before that Diablo gets exerted. I imagine we're going to see a Flavisham quest now. Maybe looking for something like a Brawl. Already has the Brawl. I think probably would have liked to see the quest first, just to sort of get some more options. So it's good to see that Chris has taken out that Ursula's now. Something like a Sudden Chill won't be as impactful, but Patrick is hitting that 6 ink turn, so he is able to do a Prince John followed by a Hypnotize, drawing 2 cards and discarding one of Chris's. We do see the top deck of the Strength. Not going to be too impactful right now. Might want to save that for something like a Maui Half Shark down the line, as that card can put a lot of pressure against this Emerald Steel deck. Now I imagine we'll probably see something like a Prince John followed by that Hypnotize. We sort of see that Chris is a little bit low on items here, so that Flavisham not going to be offering too much draw, and even if it does, being able to draw as well off the Diablo. So imagine we'll see an Ink and a Hypnotize here, followed by a Quest of the Diablo. Just deciding what to ink. Strength, I do believe there was a Bruno in the hand, so does already have that removal. And we see the power of the Prince John Hypnotize here, being able to draw 2 from that. And interestingly, the Baboom here. Actually just going to sing to draw that extra card, so I don't mind that. And then maybe next turn can just challenge into it with the Diablo to take it out. Now it's currently 9 apiece here. This McDuck Manor putting in work, already gained 8 lore for Chris. Another Flavisham coming down. I believe he is at ace, can play that big Sisu to clear the board. Patrick, unfortunately, not able to get rid of that last card in hand, and it's going to set him back a little bit here. And probably going to ink this Flavisham, I would imagine. No, it just holds on to it. Always a risk against these Emerald Steel decks that you might get it discarded, but I don't believe Patrick has a discard in hand, and maybe just concerned about that Bruno. Ooh, we do see these sudden chills, so an option here for Patrick would be to sudden chill the last card in hand, and then Bruno, that Sisu, to get the guaranteed discard. But unfortunately, you are still leaving this McDuck mana not dealt with. Apologies about the camera throughout the day. It does get knocked quite a lot. It was a very packed store. Now, I definitely like this better from Patrick. Using the Bruno first. Then if you do hit the Sisu, you can maybe hold on to the sudden chill. That Sisu does go. So maybe he's just going to... Not going to draw because unfortunately the Prince John was banished. Might just go with that Baboon to take out the Flavisham. Depends what he thinks that last card in hand is. It's just the Flavisham, so... Chris getting another 2 off the McDuck, putting him up to 10 lore from the McDuck mana and 2 from the Flavishams. So it looks like this McDuck mana could single-handedly take the game for Chris here. So very powerful card in this matchup, as we can see. Alrighty, and Chris just holding on to this card again. Patrick, I don't think has any discard at the moment, so fortunately going to be able to hold on to that card going into next turn. But Patrick, possibly something like that Baboom to take out the Flavisham. And just the 1-cost Diablo. Does have that hidden Cove in the hand, so can start increasing the strength and try and take down this McDuck mana before Chris runs away with the game. I imagine we're just going to see all the cards come down here. And we will get to see what the card in hand for Chris is here with the Diablo. Is a Super Goof, so can play that to immediately challenge into the Cove. Won't get the lore off it because it does have to challenge a character for that, but could definitely help keep this board a bit more clear of Patrick's. You see the Vital Sphere, probably not going to use it just yet, but could be useful to have in case he top decks something like that Maui. I imagine we're just going to see a play of the Super Goof and a play of the Vital Sphere and challenge into this Cove. Just going to hold on to both the cards here. So unfortunately both plays. Chris just saying he doesn't have any songs rather than actually showing Patrick his hand, so that's definitely not how the card works. And unfortunately Patrick just questing here. I think he probably would have needed to deal with this location, but I think anyway it might have been a little bit too late. Currently 17 to 11 for Chris. And this Super Goof going to be getting an extra 2 as well, because it will be able to challenge in and banish this morph. So I think Ruby Sapphire, definitely a deck on everyone's mind going into this weekend's challenge. After having a very good showing at the last 2 Continentals, but not able to win it. Did make it to the finals of North America, but not able to close it out. So definitely a powerful deck. With a few little tech includes for Chris here. That Super Goof and McDuck mana. Definitely helping out a bit here. I think that McDuck mana got about 13 or 12 lore this game. Maybe even 14, so definitely putting in a lot of work. So Sisu just coming down as another body to quest for, but I don't think Patrick will be able to take out this location, and that is going to be the end of game 1 here, going to Chris. So we just see that the Emerald discard deck was looking in a good position, but unfortunately that well-timed Sisu from Chris really put him in a commanding position And of course, that early McDuck mana proving too much for Patrick. I think gained 14 lore that game, so definitely put in a lot of work. So will be interesting to see if Chris can get that again going into game 2. This time we'll be going second. So here we go, game 2. Patrick will be going first in this one with Emerald Steel against Chris's Ruby Sapphire. Definitely going to be wanting to look for that Shift Diablo. I believe those 3 cards in front are what he is holding on to, potentially. No, probably going to be getting rid of those, but might have been the Baboom, Storm Rage on, and Diablo in hand. I definitely don't like holding on to the Storm Rage on against this matchup. There's not too many characters outside of the Tipo. And if Chris plays a Sail on turn 2, then not even going to be able to sing it with the Diablo. And I think in this matchup, you definitely want to try and get those Diablo and Ursula out early. So you're going to mulligan hard for those, and keeps the Baboom. I would have liked to see a 6 here for Patrick, just give himself a higher chance of finding that Diablo Devoted Herald. Start that card draw early on. As I don't really know what the Storm and Baboom really adds to your early game plan. We do see Chris here has another McDuck mana and the ramp on 2, so it will be interesting to see if he goes with that line again. The Sail the Azrath has been a really good card to add to these Ruby Sapphire decks, but unlike Tipo, it does draw a card, which can sometimes be a little bit of a downside when your opponent has a Diablo in play. Don't think Patrick's going to be able to get it this game. Probably just going to go for the Morph on 2, as he did see Chris's hand last turn and there were no songs in it. A lot of these Ruby Sapphire decks opting to play 2 Be Prepared, so less chance of drawing into those, but something like a How Far I'll Go. Alrighty, we do see the Ursula come down here actually for Chris. Be interesting to see what shift options he has for the Morph. Maybe would just be that Beast potentially. We did see the Tinkerbells in the past, but might not be running that one anymore for Patrick. Interesting to see the Porpsicle Ink here for Chris, not wanting to play that one after the Sail to draw a card. And I imagine we're going to see this Prince John come down, hoping next turn maybe to get something like a Hypnotize, start drawing some more cards. I think whilst you're able to draw cards, this deck can do pretty well into Ruby Sapphire, but as soon as you get your draw engine taken out, and we do see the McDuck mana come into play now, so interesting to see if Patrick decides to start challenging and taking it out. I imagine he probably will. Unfortunately, I don't believe he has any discard cards in his hand other than that Bruno, but Chris not having any characters in play won't be able to use that just yet. So probably going to ink the Strength. Might not even ink anything here and just challenge into the mana. I think inking the Strength here, probably a good option. Maybe wanting to hold that to double sing it with the Ursula to take out a potential Flavisham here. So we see Chris McDuck mana lore gain has started, gaining 2. Patrick just deciding to quest out, thinking that he can race Chris here rather than having to deal with the mana. Alright, so we see the Flavisham coming down, so Patrick holding on to that Strength of a Raging Fire to deal with that next turn. Would have been interesting to see Chris go for a second McDuck mana, but just opting for the Flavisham to draw some cards. I see another Diablo here. Didn't actually ink last turn, so won't be able to play that Bruno. Possibly something like that Storm Rage on to draw a couple of cards first. It's just prioritizing the draw at the moment. Alrighty, that Storm, Strength of Raging Fire should be at the bottom of the deck. And Patrick just going for the race option in this game. Sort of forced down that pathway but not getting the Diablo. Going to have another 2 lore gained for Chris here, putting him up to 4. Imagine we might see a sail this turn. There we go, as I say, here it comes. Sisu to take out that Diablo, just so it's not able to shift. Can't target the Prince John because it does have ward. Now normally if you played that, you would have to... Sisu should be in play, yep, there we go. Now I didn't actually see the Ice Block there, so able to take out that Ursula. Very strong play for Chris here. So normally in a tournament, playing that Sisu and targeting the Prince John would mean that it is in play and you wouldn't be able to use that Ice Block. So always careful to think through your actions carefully before committing to them and reading all of your opponent's cards. Now that Sisu is quite scary having that shift option, but we do know Patrick has a Storm Rage on in his hand, so going to be able to play that. Unfortunately that Ursula has been banished, so not going to be able to double sing things like that Sudden Chill and get some more draw power. Imagine we're going to see something like that, singing the Storm Rage on with the Sisu, drawing a card. Or maybe even singing the Sudden Chill with Ursula first, just to get an assessment of the options. And that's what we see come in here, very nice from Patrick. Probably going to be that dime, and then Patrick able to draw off the Prince John, see what he gets. Does get a You're Welcome, so interesting card here in the Emerald Steel deck. Not something we normally see, but given that Chris only has 1 card in hand, you're probably going to want to hold on to that just for now. Actually just going to let the Storm Rage on. Oh, and we do see another Sudden Chill here, so could play that after inking a card here. And has completely emptied Chris's hand and only has 6 ink, I believe, so probably should have held on to that Shield of Virtue from last turn. Not going to be really adding too much in this matchup. And then Patrick just questing for 3, going up to 11. And that is not a good top deck here for Chris. Now, interestingly, the You're Welcome can be quite a good card, trying to get rid of some of those big characters like the Maui and Sisu, or even using it on your own characters to draw more cards. And then we just see a quest for 4 from Patrick, so choosing a good path here, trying to race the Ruby Sapphire deck, even with the McDuck mana, pushing Chris up to 10 lore, Patrick at 15. So Hypnotize, just nice to draw a card, and then does have a couple options for removal, so even if Chris were to get a character like that Maui Half Shark off the top, we'll be able to deal with it. And that is going to be the game here. Chris not able to clear any of these characters, so game 2 going to Patrick. Definitely much more favoured going first in this matchup. So we have a 1-1 split here in round 1. Thanks for watching the first round of the Good Games Greensborough Set Champs. We have plenty more games to come in the following videos. Going to try and get a video out each day over the weekend. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoy the content, like, subscribe, leave some comments, possibly about what decks you think we will see at the challenge coming up this weekend. And we'll see you in the next round.